So it's been a minute since the last video. I apologize, you know, we've been out here cooking up some stuff in the stew. But ladies and gentlemen, we have some exciting stuff to talk about today. We all know Forte, right? We all love Forte. You know, some of us may even love the other ones too, like Charlotte and Valerie and all them. But what happens if I told you that they all got a new edition, a new version, Halloween versions? Yes, they are all ascended characters. And they actually look pretty good in terms of their artwork and stuff. I really do love the Halloween themes with a lot of these characters. So what did they do with Forte's kit, right? Well, let's just take a look at it. It's pretty loaded, yeah. Look at the skill. The skill gives you tons of arch gen. You have an art that gives you equipment CT plus an attack buff. You have a true art that gives you art gauge and dark resist down. Why is this a theme, by the way? I just want to, you know, take a step back. We've had like 4 characters come out that's had this exact same true art. You get arch gen and you reduce dark res. What is Yama P's deal about giving every single support character dark resist down? And then you look at the super art, damage plus break power for dark allies at least. And this is actually going to be insanely good whenever we eventually get an ascended dark breaker slash damage dealer, because they'd be able to benefit from both of these stats, but we already have pretty good awoken options already to utilize this. But one thing that is also really cool about all these damage buffs and everything else is the fact that she has a unique passive that gives you more damage based on how many unique races are in the party. So if you have a human, a demon, a spirit, and a giant, you're getting 120% damage up just like that. Now, unfortunately, there's not that many varieties when it comes to unit races, right? Especially if we even limit that to just the ascended pool. You can maybe have a god character, a demon character, a human character, which will of course be Forte in this situation. But if you also include the awoken characters, then, you know, it kind of evens out a little bit. You are able to throw on at least one more race somewhere. So what I'm hoping this actually leads to is that they are somewhat alluding to the fact that there's going to be an ascended character for each race at some point. Because I would love to see a giant ascended character or a machine type ascended character or whatever the case may be. But for right now, you can definitely still make full use of this. Or even if you only have 2 races on the team, you still are getting a passive 60% damage buff, which is insanely good. And yeah, overall, Forte is extremely good. Like Halloween Forte, arguably one of the better characters in the game with her debut alone. Like I would say easily S tier at least. I think the main negative here is that she's really hard based around dark characters, and if you don't have a lot of dark units at your disposal, then you're not really going to be able to make a lot of use out of her. Oh, and another thing that does really suck too is that she's type B arch gen. That is the worst possible thing anyone could possibly be. Next is going to be Halloween Charlotte. And Halloween Charlotte is all about bleeds and big damage. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm going to be a little bit biased here because I'm not really too into the whole bleed mechanic, but she is a character that does benefit from having more bleeds on the enemy. If you have 1 bleed on the enemy, she's giving herself 100% crit rate. If you have 3, she gives herself 100% accuracy. Not only that, she also buffs up her super art's physical res down based on the number of bleeds that you actually have applied onto the enemy. And if you look at her modifier, it's pretty freaking high. 185,000 on top of crits, on top of physical res down. You're going to be expecting a lot of damage from Halloween Charlotte. And one thing that I like about this character too is that she doesn't need to have the bleeds to go crazy. You could just give her crit rate by like an outside source, and then she's still going to hit extremely hard and still be able to apply 100% physical res down. One thing that I do not like though is that not only do I not like the bleed mechanic, I also don't like the fact that the bleed is tied to the true art, but I guess they kind of did that because her skill already gives art gauge, so they wanted to kind of counteract that in some way. Yeah, if you're going to nuke with this character and you really want to optimize her crit rate and all that, you're definitely going to be wanting to use some type of equipment that gives her bleed on the equip, so she doesn't have to use her true art, and then possibly, you know, some type of other arch gen item, so you could just go straight into the super art. And then if you're using her more in sustain, then it really doesn't matter. You could just alternate between the art that's going to give you crit damage and then use the true art whenever you need it for the bleed, and then just go crazy with the super art. Charlotte, definitely not a bad character, pretty solid. I wouldn't say the prize of the banner by any means, but a fun character to definitely mess around with. Next is going to be Valerie, and Halloween Valerie has a very interesting, somewhat gimmick, but we've seen it before with Star God Lisa. However, it's a little bit more restricted here. So Halloween Valerie has all magic slots, which is very important because her super art is able to reset all of her magic equip cooldowns upon its first use. The very first time you use it, you instantly reset all your magic equips, which is pretty strong considering the fact that this thing also gives you 200% damage up and 100% defense ignore as well. Which means that you could use equips that just give you tons of art gauge, get your super art, pop your super art, boom, you get all your arching equips back, and then you do it again, and then you go straight back into your super art and blow up whatever's in front of you. Or you could also utilize items that maybe are based around status effects. So let's say Karama Whip, for an example. If you don't get the Karama Whip to go off the first time, you pop your super art, pop the Karama Whip again, and then, hey, look at that, it might actually went off. And then if it didn't go off, GG, because you're gonna have to wait till this equip comes back up at that point. You can't reset it after you used your super art for the very first time. I think this is still really strong though on its own as a super art, but I don't think it's as crazy as something like Star God Lisa's, just because the fact that it only happens once and it's only to magic equips, not like magic equips are bad by any means, it's just you could have a lot of different equip slots here that would utilize this so much better, right? In terms of the rest of the kit though, it's actually not too bad. She has a really strong skill being able to give her tons of arc gauge. She also has a 120% attack buff. She has stackable magic resist down, and she has a really strong passive, or let me say 2 strong passives, because she has one passive that gives her entire team more damage res based on how high her own HP is. The second passive which gives her more damage based on her own attack value. And her own attack value is relatively high. She sets it around 4690 before you even factor in all the additional attack stats that she's going to be getting from all the magic slots. So she's going to be hitting extremely hard with the buff from the super art plus the passive buff. And let's say you have me or whatever else on the team, well, you can see some crazy damage from Valerie. Those are all 3 of the new Halloween characters coming out, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely Forte is the queen of this banner, you know, easily, right? The other 2 are really good, but mainly just DPS characters. But Forte is a character that you might want to get. I don't think she's necessarily required by any means, but she's really strong, especially for dark characters in the future. I feel like she's going to be a staple in a lot of sustain teams, which is really cool that they did this because she's literally the complete opposite of her other variation. Unlike a character like Star God Lisa, which is pretty much just regular Lisa on roids, Halloween Forte is the complete opposite of her dark counterpart. Her dark counterpart is really heavily focused on nuking and supporting her team in that department, but this one is heavily focused on supporting her team in more of a sustain way. Tell me down below if you guys are going to be summoning for any of these characters or not whenever they come out on the Japanese version, or if you're just going to be saving, or if you're on global, tell me if you're going to be saving for any of these. I'm definitely going to be looking out for Halloween Forte the most. But hey, if you guys are going to be summoning on this, I think the banner probably went live yesterday by the time I dropped this video. So I hope all you guys got lucky. Hopefully you got what you wanted. And if you didn't, hey man, you get them next time. I know you will. But thank you all again for coming out. It's been your boy P. If you enjoyed this video, have me check out either one of the videos popping on the screen right now. Great content. Guarantee you'll love them. Oh, and one more thing before you leave. Don't forget to drink water.